Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Hesham Elnakib. He's from Egypt and he is the current Consul General in San Francisco, overseeing most of the western United States. He's been at his position for 6 months, but prior to that he's served in various positions in Washington, D.C., and Vienna, Austria, in Egypt. He's had a long career in the Foreign Service, but he has aspirations of one day being an academic and returning to the classroom. He has taught at American University in Washington, D.C., at Cairo University, and at Hilwan University in Egypt. So he has in preparation for that, he has degrees from the American University in Cairo in political science with a minor in economics. He has a master's degree in international relations from the International Institute of Public Administration in Paris, and then a doctorate degree in history from the Institute of Oriental Studies at the Russian Academy of Science in Moscow. So he's spent a lot of time learning about the world. He's a wonderful man. We had a delightful conversation as we drove down here today. Has interesting views, wonderful insight on the Middle East. He's married and has a 3-year-old son. His family's in San Francisco, but we're delighted to welcome His Excellency Hesham Elnakib today. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Coming to BYU has been always a dream because, as Professor Chad just said, I worked in academia as much as I worked in diplomacy. With a minor correction, I taught at the American University in Cairo, not in Washington. I hope one of those days would come, be able to, again, gap the bridge and try to bring my experience here to the U.S., a country that I cherish so much, a country that I respect. I spent all my career studying the American history, and I did my PhD on the Egyptian-American relations, because I believe in Egypt and I believe in the U.S. And I believe that this bilateral relation can change things. It did, and it will. I'm inspired by this wonderful reception. I'm inspired by the invitation by Kennedy Center, by Professor Peterson, by Professor Chad, and my dear friend Jeff. Where's Jeff? Yeah, well, he's not
here. A presentation the academic.
Oh, okay. So I'm honestly being happy, and sometimes when I'm too excited and happy, I get to be speechless, and that plays very well for you because you will not have to listen to me, you'll not have to be bored. I wonder why are you coming here? I hate to listen to myself. But I promise you, I will not make it a long speech. I will just give a small presentation of Egypt. I'll give a small presentation of where we are today. And probably we will engage in a Q&A, and we'll do it off the record because I would like to hear honestly your opinion. I would like to hear your concerns. And most probably I will learn from you today. I just wanted to tell you that when we talk about Egypt, where I come from, I'm very proud of my heritage because of many, many reasons. I will not be able to tell you all of them reasons why I'm so proud of being an Egyptian, but I'll tell you that Egypt was the was the cradle of the oldest civilization on earth. Egypt is the bed of the 3 monolithic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Egypt is an African country, is an Islamic country, is a Christian country, is a Mediterranean country. Part of Egypt, by the way, nobody knows, or probably part of Egypt is in Asia, which is Sinai. And the interesting thing is that we convene the African unity in Sinai, in Asia. But I'm telling you that Egypt has all the colors of the world. Egypt is the center of the Middle East, is the leader of the Middle East, and is the leader of the Arab world. Egypt has been taken upon its shoulder a role of stability, a role of peace. Egyptians by nature, because of geography, Professor Chad, are very peaceful. Egypt is a plateau. We don't have mountains. It's just the Nile River. and we call Upper Egypt, or we call the south part of Egypt the Upper Egypt because the plateau is like that. So this is the upper part, and the lower part is the northern part of Egypt. The Nile flows before the high dam. It floods once every year. Peasants will throw the seeds, will wait on the crops to grow, and then they collect their crops, and here life goes very peacefully. When the high dam was built in the 60s, it made even the life easier. I mean, there is a continuous type of irrigation that goes on all over throughout the years. Again, we have a fertile land, very, unfortunately, very narrow valley, but very fertile. People, again, as I say, still put their seeds, crops come up, and we have wonderful climate, wonderful weather. That's why Egypt was invaded by all forces of the world. Not just because of its because of its prosperity, because of its richness, because of its land, because of how Egyptians are so peaceful and welcoming. But I can promise you, as much as we are welcoming and as much as we are peaceful, we know how to defend our borders very well. And we defended our borders all over the centuries. And we have engaged in wars, continuous wars, and we have engaged in continuous peace. But we came to a conclusion that being in this part of the world, we have to apply peace. We have to keep the balance that we have been talking about. And within that perspective, we looked right and left, and I'm moving to modern history. We found that we have a U.S. free world, people coming from all over the world, achieving their American dream in such a peaceful place, innovating, giving new hope. And we said, these are the people we can stretch our hands to, and we can establish partnership to continue with our prosperity and to continue with the balance that we have always strived for. Many of you probably would not know that the first cooperation between Egypt and the U.S. started 1856. 1856 came a colonel by the name of Colonel Lauren. He brought a brigade of about 40 soldiers to defend the coastal borders of Egypt in Alexandria. Many of you probably wouldn't know that Egyptian forces fought shoulder to shoulder, side by side with Americans in 1873 against Al-Mahdi forces in the southern part of Egypt. Many of you wouldn't know that many of them are buried we have their bodies, and we're very proud of having their bodies in Egypt till now. I'm talking about 1853. You could see how deeply rooted this relation, how strong this relation is. And then we moved on and on. I'm not here to tell you how this relation was successful in bringing about peace and bringing about prosperity, but let me remind you of another story of how we perceive the American people. In 1956, we were about to be invaded by the British forces, by Israel, and by France. And it was thanks to Eisenhower in 1956. He gave the ultimatum for those forces to withdraw from Egypt. This is the first lesson that we got in our schools when we were young. This is what we learn about the American people. We learn about the American people that they are liberators. We have never perceived Americans as occupiers. We have even saw Americans acting not only in the Middle East. We saw Americans acting in Europe. We saw how they freed Europe. First World War, Second World War, with their Marshall Plan. All these things, we studied them since we were young in our schools, and until now they are part of the Egyptian educational curriculum. It is very hard to change this perspective. It's very hard to change this image now. I know in 2003, in 9/11 of course, and then 2003, the picture has had some blemishes on it. But I cannot say it has changed. I say that there are some scratches, that there are certain type of anger, certain type of disappointment, understandable from both sides, but these things have to be worked on because, as we were talking on the way here, you can book a ticket, you can go to Egypt, you can walk down the streets of Egypt anytime, day or night, say I'm an American, and please come back to me and tell me how you were received. You'll tell me we were so well received, you didn't believe how much hospitality we have encountered meeting Egyptian people. This is how Egyptians still perceive Americans. I come back to 1991, during the first Gulf War. Again, the same forces that invaded Iraq were the same forces that liberated another Arab country. We will never forget that for Americans. And we fought again, shoulder by shoulder, with Americans to free Kuwait in 1991. And I was part of the Egyptian diplomacy, negotiating, attending conferences, and organizing policies. And I attended many conferences between Americans and Egyptian diplomats, arranging for our common strategy to free Kuwait and then for the period of reconstruction in Kuwait. All this is done by Americans. All this is done by you. So what I'm trying to say here, what I'm driving at here, there is no way that this image is going to be changed. And don't you ever believe that you are hated in the Middle East. And let me talk in particular about Egypt. Egyptians know very well what the American people are all about. They know very well the fabric of the American people. That's why I'm telling you, we have 25,000 American families living in Egypt. 25,000. They were there in 9/11. They were there 2003 during the invasion. And ask any one of them, they were conducting their daily business with the same hospitality and the same big smile. Probably faced with criticism for how the American government for the deeds of the American government in Iraq at that point of time. And you have to understand one important thing. There is a great difference between my generation and the newer generation, not only in age, in the way they look at realities of life. In my age, we would hear about 1967 war, Kippur War in radio, not on TV. Even though we had TV, we didn't have satellites TV. But nowadays, the new generation, you log on your computer, you have satellites TV, you see things happening in front of you. You see bloodshed, you see the war. So it's more of a challenge to us as a government to convince the younger generation that peace is the thing that should dictate its policy, not war. Very difficult. Very difficult to deface the images that they see when a young kid is bombarded here or there. It's very difficult. But again, having said that, it adds to our challenges, but based upon the fact that Egyptians are always appreciative to what the Americans did and they are still doing. We are the second recipient of American aid. We receive about 1.8 billion. Well, even though we had a cut last year, but we still are appreciative. But with all the economic difficulties, Americans are still giving us, we are the second recipient. We take about $1.8 billion a year. You think Egyptians are not aware of that? No, they are aware of that. They are appreciative to what the Americans are giving, even though with the hardship that they are facing. We still have a promise from the administration and the Congress that they will do their best to maintain the level of their assistance. So what I want to say is, there is a new era. There is a new light. There is a new hope. There is a new administration, the administration that you all elected. It's full of aspiration, it's full of hope, it's full of work. We convene on daily basis in Cairo, we convene on daily basis in Washington. I convene on daily basis in the West Coast. There are too many plans to be done. There are too many things to mend. But you have to always keep in mind that when I say mend, I'm talking about mental image. I'm talking about the official level. But we have the base. You are very well accepted. We always look in Egypt up to the United States, and we always follow what the U.S. is doing, and we are a partner to the U.S. in establishing peace and prosperity in the Middle East. You know, I never shut my mouth up after 10 or 15 minutes of lecture, but I would challenge myself. I would try to, once I hold, don't ever give a diplomat a microphone. Ever make this mistake. So I will try to shut my mouth up because I'm coming here honestly to learn from you. I would like to hear good questions. I would like to hear comments, not necessarily questions. Because what I would be doing is that I would be taking all these concerns back to Egypt. And that's what we call public diplomacy. This is part of our new diplomacy in Egypt. We're learning how to do public diplomacy. Of course, not the public diplomacy that would cost 1.8 billion a year or something like that, but public diplomacy with whatever means that we have. So I'm going to shut my mouth up. Again, thank you very much for this hospitality, but don't try to be so generous to me because you saw me. I get to be speechless with this generosity. I'm not used to it. So thank you again, and I'm very happy being here, and I'm ready for all the questions. And I would rather do that off the record. Okay? Thank you.
Ambassador Elnakib, we wanted to, in great appreciation for you taking time to come and visit our law school, we wanted to offer a gift unto you.
Well, thank you.
And considering that we're in the United States, and of course it's become very diverse in the almost 200 years of existence, or over 200 years, sorry about my math, we wanted to offer you something truly American, something that represented by the early inhabitants of this country. We'd like to present you with a Navajo sand painting.
Oh my.
The Navajo people are a Native American tribe that's located in Arizona, New Mexico, the Four Corners area. According to the Navajo religion, they believe that the universe is held in a very delicate balance. And whenever that balance is thrown off, that's when some tragedy takes place, like illness or conflict or war. So what the medicine man of the village will do with the tribe is that he'll create a sand painting, much larger than this, and he'll create it on the floor. Then the person that's afflicted, that's sick, he'll place that person on the sand painting, and gradually and gently he'll transfer power from the painting onto the person in different parts of the body.
Very interesting.
Until order is restored, until balance is restored, and the person once again walks in beauty.
Can I ask you a question, though?
Yeah.
Do you think you'll be able to regain our balance in the world, in the Middle East in particular?
So that's why we're giving you the sand painting.
I'll keep it in my room, really hoping that I'll be inspired by him, and inspired by this philosophy that, regain our balance one of those days.
I really hope so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Also, as another gift, we wanted to do a dance presentation for all of you, and we'll represent two of the Native American dances that have become intertribal, which means that all the tribes share these. Although they came from particular tribes, they've all become kind of like common property. The men will represent the grass dancers, and typically they were the first ones to come out into the field of grass to flatten the grass in preparation for the powwow, in preparation for the other dancers to come out. So their movements, they represented the grass of the prairies. The women will represent the jingle dancers, and the jingle dress dance came from the Ojibwe tribe in northern Minnesota. And the legend goes is that this tribe, most of the people were starting to get sick, some of them were dying. And one of the women in the tribe, one of the young girls, had a dream. And in this dream, a woman came to her, and the woman was wearing a jingle dress, just like this. And the woman told her, if you make a dress like the one I'm wearing, and if you dance in the way I teach you to dance, your people will be healed. So the girl, she collected materials, she made a dress, she danced, and her village was healed. So, exactly. So Native Americans, the prime reason why they dance, in addition to worship, is they dance for those who cannot dance. So this is the gift that we wanted to present to you. The jingling grass dance.
Looking forward.
Thank you.